And what's up, guys? Welcome to another home theater hangout. So let's hang out for a few minutes, see who's up in the chat today. What's up, Alex Miles? Does this have IMAX shots? Well, Alex, we'll get to that in a couple of minutes here. But for anybody who is here, how does the audio sound? Does it sound good? I'm assuming it probably sounds all right. Now, I'm going to review Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning 4K Blu-ray. I don't know if I reviewed the digital stream or not. I feel like maybe I did a few months back, or at least we talked about it. But yeah, we got the review copy came in the other day, so I got to check it out. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes here. But I'm guessing the audio's good. Everybody seems quiet today, so that's okay. So let's get into it. So if you want to watch this in its full entirety, there'll be a link down this video's description if you want to check out this full stream at the end. To the second channel, that's where all the live streams will reside. That is dynamically challenged. There will be a link in the video's description after this is over with. So I'm going to review this here. I'll cut out all the dead parts and all the ums and so's and hmms and blank spots. So that way we get a full, fresh, short review video out of this. But let's go ahead. Let's get into this. So what's up, guys? Today we are going to be checking out Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning on 4K Blu-ray. I'm not here to talk about how good or bad this movie is. I'm just going to share some of my thoughts on the audio and video quality. Now let's go over a few tech specs. The movie was shot in 4.5, and 6K. It's got a 4K DI. It's rated PG-13. Runtime is 169 minutes. Aspect ratio is 239:1, so there are black letterbox bars, and also 1.90:1, so this movie does retain the IMAX shots. And of course, the audio is in Dolby Atmos. Now, if you don't know what the Dolby Atmos viewer is, you can find links down below in this video's description that tells you all about it, what it does, and where you can get it. You can also find a link to all the review equipment down below in this video's description as well, such as the 98-inch Sony Bravia 5, the Projector 8, projecting on a 150-inch screen, and also I do have an OLED in here now at 55 inches. So I get, I think, the best of all worlds as far as display technology in my reviews. So if I feel like something might be a little bit off on the projector, I might go check it out on the 98-inch. If I feel like maybe black levels are a little bit off on that, I might go and double check on the 55-inch OLED. So I have 3 reference points for video quality. And of course, my audio should be pretty good. So let's go and talk about the audio quality really quick. So first off, this was shot... Actually, it's, no, I was going to talk about the video. No, let's go into audio. All right, so let's kick this off right at the start of this movie at around 45 seconds in. Here, this is at the start. We get a bunch of different voices that do bounce around through the different speakers. We get like this medley of past movies with these different one-liners going through different speakers, giving Ethan Hunt some... Actually, it's just like a lot of exposition going on. During this entire movie, there's a lot of exposition going on. And also, at the start of this movie, we get some exposition as well during the different speakers. And as you can see here, this does light up all 6 top channels and then also my lower bed channels. All speakers except for the wide channels get used. If you have a second row of surrounds, the second row barely gets used in this. Also, the center back surround doesn't get used here as well. However, if you don't have 2 rows of surround channels, if you don't have wide channels, then you're pretty much safe. So this does get pretty busy. We do have some very good directional discrete sounds that are put through different speakers. So let's kick this off. Let's go to the next shot here, which gets some pretty good Atmos effects. This is at 26 minutes, 22 seconds. This goes right before he gets into the entity's coffin. Right when the door closes on top of him, it sounds like it's closing on top of your head. So you get some overhead effects as that canopy drops down on his head. And then here, we will start hearing the entity's voice, which I think might be what's his name? Esai Morales' voice, just like digitized to be the entity. I think that's what it is. But you can see here that we have the top two middle rows here, the top middle right and left, I thought was the entity's voice, but during this whole little entity one-on-one with Ethan, the left surround, right surround, also the left rear, right rear is where you're going to hear the entity's voice emanate from, and it's really strong. It's a lot stronger in the surround and back channels, a little bit lighter in the front channels, and I thought it was overhead, but actually the two top middle speakers overhead do not contain the entity's voice. It's just really some light extension from whatever's happening on screen. We get some of that light reverb going up top. And then, of course, we have a little bit of some of the light sound effects that are happening in this scene that's spread across the top half. But again, most of the dialogue that happens in this happens in the side surrounds, back surrounds, and then the effects kind of emanate from the LCRs, and then we get some light overhead bleed over in the top channels, which does use all 6 channels. No wide channel effects, no second surround effects, and again, no dynamic objects here. So a lot of this stuff here, at least the first demo shots I gave, were static shots. I mean, this is still a really good, effective scene. So my notes say you're going to hear the electric shocks that come out through the lower channels. Also, they kind of come out through the top middle channels. Also, the bass in this scene also has some pretty good thump as well. Not room shaking bass, but it does sound pretty decent. And this comes in around 26 minutes in. So let's move on to the next standout scene, which comes in around 1 hour, 6 minutes, 14 seconds or so. So right before Ethan gets dropped off into the submarine, this is where we get our first kind of like heavy bass drop. Like this whole scene has some really nice deep bass rumble to it as they're in the chopper. And also, I don't know if, there we go. We get the 2 flyovers that happen right here. I think I might have placed that wrong, but you should see the 2 objects. There we go. I don't think I lined that up properly, but the two flyovers are those 2 yellow balls that fly from back to front. So that's one of the, I think maybe that might be the only one of 2 flyovers that we get in this entire movie. And this happens at 1 hour, 14 seconds in. And that is, I think, the first time we get some dynamic objects is during this part here. Now at 1 hour, all right, 1 hour, 19 minutes in, we have the shootout that happens at the cabin. Right here, we will hear the cabin overhead. It's on fire. You'll hear all the flames in the top channel speakers. It sounds like the wood is going to give out and kind of like fall from the top down. So we get that. We have also, it intercuts with Ethan fighting the bad guy inside the submarine. Not so much surround effects there, but the main player here is going to be all of the action that happens in the burning cabin. So we've got flames happening in the lower surround channels, and again, the stuff happening up top where it sounds like the roof is about to cave in, and then there are some gunshots that do kind of ricochet front to back in the lower channels as well. So this is one of the better surround moments in the movie. This happens around 1 hour 19 minutes. And the bass here as well is not super strong, the bass, although we do get some nice rumble during all of these action scenes during this whole montage of cabin fight and submarine fight. So a good solid action scene with good overall atmospheric effects. This is at 1 hour 19 minutes. Now at 1 hour 29 minutes, we have some really heavy bass rumble right before Ethan jumps. He gets scooted outside of the submarine, really deep bass. And then as he exits out of the submarine, this is probably, I want to say, might be the strongest bass in the movie, or second most strongest bass. Because here we get the rumble from the submarine as it passes by. Ethan is kind of skirting past the propeller, and the swirling of the propeller here is really strong. I don't think it's demo-worthy bass at all, but it is definitely one of the strongest moments in this entire film. And here again, you kind of feel the whirl as the whooshing as the propeller goes around the room, and it does rumble really strong here. Again, not demo worthy, but in the scope of the entire movie, this is the strongest that there probably is. That comes in at an hour 29 minutes. And then we'll wrap this up with maybe the best part of this movie. This is the second or the most heaviest part in this movie, where you get a lot of dynamic objects. Now, once he gets inside the submarine, this is the part where you're going to hear water spraying through the surround channels. You'll hear the metal clanking around the top channels. As you can see, we have objects that are circling around the room. That's basically like the creaks and all that you'll hear the metal bending. There are missiles or torpedoes that are falling in the background that are hitting other torpedoes, I guess. And then you'll see how the objects kind of swirl around the sound stage. And this does put the wide channels, the second surround channels, and also the center back. So this is the only scene in this movie where it will utilize all of your available channels and it doesn't remain static. We also get a nice deep rumble of bass as well. And this happens at around an hour 39 minutes, hour 40 minutes in. Also, when he exits the submarine, there's actually two pretty heavy, I want to say some pretty heavy infrasonic bass drops. As the submarine is kind of sinking towards the bottom of the ocean, just during the musical score, we get some big heavy thumps that if you have capable subwoofers, you'll hear how the bass really drops and just kind of vibrates throughout the entire room. It actually made my door rattle in the front of the house. So it was pretty deep. It was pretty deep. Not Edge of Tomorrow infrasonic deep, but deep enough where I was able to rumble the doors off some of the hinges throughout the house. So it was impressive, but not demo worthy. Again, hour 39 minutes in when Ethan is in the submarine. Now, as far as, bass response during the entire movie, like I said, there are some good low frequency effects that do creep up occasionally when he's in the submarine. That's the strongest part of the movie. Like I said, the exiting of the submarine as it's sinking, we get a couple of those infrasonic bass drops. And here is my RTA of him inside the submarine. As you can see, it picks up pretty heavily from 63 hertz on down. At about 30 hertz, I want to say about 40 hertz, it starts kind of dropping off a bit. Now, this is the response I'm getting in my room, obviously with a room gain. That's going to play a factor into what this looks like. It might be different in yours, might be stronger than yours, or might be weaker than yours. But as you can see, I get some pretty good extension way past down 30 hertz. And this is the entire submarine section. And this is a pretty long sequence as well. So even though bass response, I would not classify as demo-worthy bass, there are some really strong LFE moments throughout the entire movie. One thing that I wasn't too happy with, I thought the mid bass, kind of like in the vocal region out of the LCRs or the center channel, I just felt like vocals didn't have much weight to them. Like I felt like they could have been a little bit more heavier sounding. They did sound kind of light in the center channel. Like I would have thought that Ving Rhames would have had a deeper voice. Maybe Tom Cruise would have had a slightly deeper voice as well, but I just felt like the center channel dialogue was a little bit light as far as the mid-bass region goes. And then, of course, you saw in those demo clips that there are really good, solid overhead top channel effects throughout the entire movie. Not too many like helicopter flyovers, not really heavy discrete overhead effects, except for the stuff that I showed you here. The main one being inside the submarine. There's some good flyover stuff that happens in the last sequence with the two airplanes, the battling airplanes. That was really good. And then just overall, really good, solid mix. Now, as far as the video quality, this looks like the last movie. This was shot digitally in 4.5, 6K using digital cameras. I want to say they probably used a very, very light film emulation filter on this because it's not quite like super digital, sharp, crisp to it. Still, it's very 4K crispy throughout, though. It does have a little bit of texture to the image, but nothing too egregious at all. Now, what does have some heavy grain is going to be in the flashback sequences. So here we've got a flashback from, I believe, Mission Impossible 3. Him and I think that's Callista Flockhart. Is that Callista Flockhart? No, that's Harrison Ford's wife. I forgot the actress's name. Anyways, this is Mission Impossible 3. As a flashback there. Here we've got another flashback with Ving Rhames. I want to say this is Mission Impossible 1, at the end of Mission 1. All of these scenes are heavily grained just to give us the idea that these are flashbacks. And then we have one more from the last movie, which is with the two submarine captains. This is from Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. As you remember, that scene where they're in the submarine, this is also a flashback. And as you can see here, also got a heavy amount of film grain. But other than that, the rest of the movie is definitely 4K, crispy, very clean. I mean, we can see all of the wrinkles on Tom's face. I don't know what's going on with his hairstyle in this movie, but it's a little wacky in this movie. I don't know why they decided to go long, and it just looks weird to me. But the man is starting to age here. He is starting to look his age. But still, it's a great looking transfer overall. Here we've got some, the overall movie is fairly bright overall. We got some nice specular highlights. Here we've got some horses running in the background. I believe this happens towards the end of the movie. We got some natural color palette as well. It looks very similar to Dead Reckoning. Nothing too vibrant, nothing too over the top. It's not dull, it's not dim. It's just very natural overall. Primary colors look great. We've got the green trees here. More stuff out here, out in the skies. Very nice highlight detail as we can see the different gradients in the sky there. The black levels, solid throughout. I didn't think we were losing any kind of detail. It does get a little murky during the submarine scene here at the end. I think they might have just tried to make it a little bit more muddier looking here, just because this was all CG. This is one of those stunts that clearly Tom Cruise was not diving to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. So this CG definitely had some murkier black levels than the true to life real action stuff that he did throughout this movie. Again, some more solid black levels. This is when he goes inside the submarine. Nice specular highlight behind his head. That's a shot of Hannah Waddington. Another dark scene during the, I believe, during the start of the movie here. He's being captured. Nice black levels here. All natural throughout. Towards the end of the movie. And if you guys couldn't tell, these are a lot of IMAX shots. The IMAX sequences, I believe there are 4 big ones. We have the part with the entity, which again happens towards the start of the movie. So this goes full screen. Another shot during the entity scene. We also have the cabin shootout. Here, this is another IMAX scene. Keep in mind that this movie was not shot in IMAX. It was shot for IMAX. So typically if you saw something from Christopher Nolan, let's say The Dark Knight, where he shot it with like 35 mil for the 2.39 scenes, and then when he switched over to the IMAX stuff, it went to the IMAX film stock, which you could see the difference between his regular 35 mil and then going to the IMAX stuff, we see that resolution bump. Here, as we switch over to the full screen shots, the 1.90 shots, the resolution looks the same whether it's in the 1.9 IMAX aspect ratio or if we're going back to the 2.39, the resolution stays the same. So we don't get that bump in resolution when it switches over to the IMAX. So we get the entity shots, cabin shootout, the submarine stuff, and of course here we've got the plane stuff during the end. I think there might be one mixed in there somewhere, but I think from my notes, only 4 of them really were the big standouts for this entire movie. So unlike F1, we do get IMAX scenes throughout. And again, the weakest stuff I thought in this movie were the CG. Like this is a CG shot of a Russian missile inside one of the missile silos. That was clearly digital. I don't know if these horses are digital or not, but they didn't look 100% real. I mean, I guess they looked okay. And of course, the submarine stuff of him underwater. I mean, this is a good looking shot here of him underwater. That's all CG very clearly. Other than that, I mean, this is just a good looking stuff. I mean, this stuff, I I watched this in IMAX and in Dolby Cinema, then watching it back here at home. Stuff like this, where some folks say, "Oh, it doesn't matter if it's IMAX or not. I'll take the 2.39." Clearly, this once this opens up, this whole last part with the airplane, him hanging off the plane, this really does work. If your screen is big enough, you can get a little sense of maybe like some light vertigo. You get a little dizzy. I mean, maybe I do because I don't quite like having, I don't like heights. So on a big screen, when this blows up on my 150, I get that sensation that it's really high. So, I mean, having these types of scenes where height is expanded upon, which makes the scene get bigger, I think this really works, having the switching IMAX ratio for stuff like this. So natural color palette throughout, fairly bright. I wouldn't say it's one of the brightest. It's not Aquaman bright color-wise, anything like that. But, the peak highlights here, we got some missile explosions, some flames, stuff like that. Looked really good. The light specular highlights, lights behind his head looked great. And then, of course, the black levels looked great as well. So if I was going to rate this video-wise, I thought this was a solid-looking movie overall, just as good as the last one. I would have to go probably 9.7 for video. Great-looking movie. Okay movie. I wasn't the biggest fan of this entry, but it was a good, fun movie overall. And then, of course, great-looking. Audio-wise, this was a busy mix from start to finish. It used all of my available top channels. Bass response is not demo worthy. However, there is a healthy amount of bass throughout. I thought the mid-range, the mid-bass could have been a little bit better. Some of the explosions could have slammed a little bit harder. I thought the vocals out of the LCRs could have been a little bit better. But the overall immersion factor, it did use most of my speakers all of the time. You do have that one scene where you do get some pretty solid dynamic objects. And overall, just a fun mix. I mean, if you are a fan of these Mission Impossible movies, you know what to expect. Audio-wise, I am going to go with a 9.1 for audio. Solid mix overall. But the question is for you guys, did you see Mission Impossible? Did you watch it on digital? Did you watch it on 4K Blu-ray? How did you watch it? Leave your comments down below. How did you feel about the AV quality? Leave a comment. Now, if you do want to pick up this movie, I will leave some links for it down in this video's description. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you want, you can follow me on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Shane Lee. That's on Patreon. We have a great group of people over on Patreon. Check that out. There is a 7-day free membership as well. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. All right. Do we have anything interesting comments? No interesting comments. Then I'm going to cut this loose. Then I will let this go. I'm really wondering how this compares to the Apple TV stream as it comes to audio 4K. Well, I watched the original iTunes version. I think I did a mini review on it a few months back when it first dropped. Enjoy. He writes enjoy in my Starbucks cup. This is louder. If I recall correctly, I didn't have to turn this up quite as loud. I think I had to boost up the iTunes version maybe like 10 dB louder than what I had this. Bass response is definitely stronger in this. I do know that. So that was a big plus. So bass is definitely better. And there is a part where she is giving him, let me see if I took a picture of that. The cabin fire, I heard some more fire crackling and stuff like that during this scene. Like the soundstage was definitely more detailed for sure. The mouth-to-mouth resuscitation part here, I believe I heard some like ice crackling and stuff like that. I mean, there's that scene there. There's the scene with Haley Atwell and then the wife of Don Lowe. They're out on the sled with the dogs. You could hear some good atmospherics there, some light atmospherics. And I should mention that there is some really good atmosphere, just some light atmospherics throughout the entire movie, especially with the stuff in the Arctic that really played off really well. Oh, and there's this scene here again. During the scene, the stuff that happens in the cabin before this place goes on fire, you can hear the dogs that are barking in the background, which they do kind of make. Don Lowe makes a point of saying, oh, they got to go feed the dogs. And you can hear them way out in the backyard somewhere, out in the, whatever, the shed or something like that. But that part has some really good light atmospherics as well. I felt like I didn't really notice it that much on the iTunes version, but rewatching it again today, this afternoon, I was just thinking to myself, oh, the soundstage is definitely more, it's definitely more crisper, a bit more sharper, more revealing sounding. Hey Shan, big fan, will always be. So I have a question. I just bought 28 Years Later on 4K Blu-ray, and I want to know your thoughts on the audio. Now, I was going to review that because I got that a couple of weeks ago. On disc. I remember watching it at the theaters, and I thought it was a hard watch at the theater. I was just like not captivated by the movie. I watched it again at the house. I think when I saw it at Dolby, the Dolby wasn't hitting that well. However, the audio mix it does have a real dynamic mix for 28 Years Later. And it did sound better than what I heard at the Dolby Cinema. I'm trying to think if the bass was that good. I thought the bass was all right. It wasn't like demo worthy or anything like that, but I thought it had some pretty good audio in it. Definitely better than what was at the cinemas. The visuals were a little bit rough because they did shoot it on iPhone 15s and 15 Pros. Really grainy, looks really low resolution. I understand why they did it. They wanted to shoot it like they run and gunned it like they did in the first movie. So I mean, if they wanted to go that really low budget look to it, I guess so. But I wasn't a fan of the video quality. And then of course the ending is really divisive, I guess. But I guess we'll see how that pans out in the third movie. But I thought the audio was good. I thought it was all right. I don't think there's anything real demo scenes in it, but I thought it was all right for what it was. Lil Getty, I think Fallout is still the best overall. Yeah, I would say that probably Fallout's probably like the best in the whole series. I recently got Fallout on 3D. Unfortunately, the 3D version does not retain the IMAX shots because I think, when the door opens up and he jumps out, that would have been great in 3D, but they did not keep the 3D in that, unfortunately. You say they not use all your speakers as you have over 20. Do they make movies to use so many speakers? Well, I mean, I think if you paid attention, that one part in this movie, I did show the part where it did use all 20 speakers. How many speakers do I have? 18 or something? So it did use all of my speakers. And there's plenty of movies that use all your speakers. Yes, 28 Years Later did have some rough CG. Yeah, it did. It did have rough CG, but then at the same time, it's, the movie was shot really, really budget looking. So, I mean, like the budget CG with the budget iPhone quality, I think it kind of worked together. So, I guess when you put them two together, I thought it was all right. I mean, I like I think what had some pretty strong bass, remember when the Alpha was running across the water, across the sandbar? If I recall correctly, I think that had some pretty good bass in it. I thought the visuals were all right in that part too. For something that was shot on an iPhone, it was better than that. Do you guys remember that other iPhone movie that looked really low resolution? I thought this movie definitely looked better than that, but you're not gonna get 28 Years Later and whip it out for any demo material. But all right, I'm going to end it here. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. I'm going to, if you want to watch this whole stream back, that's on the other channel. It's on Dynamically Challenged. I'll leave a link down in the video's description. And I'm going to edit this video down. So thanks for hanging out with me. I'll catch you in the next one.